of these last several times we've got together, it has been said that as well as being divine scientists and divine physicists and divine alchemists, that we also have to be those divine mystics. But it was also said the other day when we got together on Sunday that the way of stories over all of these years has not been to edify or teach or enlighten. The whole purpose of the stories, if we look back on the interaction with us, is to dismantle what we've thought a teacher, a master, an enlightened being, a scientist or a physicist is, so that we have the possibility of experiencing for ourselves the teacher, the scientist, the alchemist within us, because we have all of these things present here whenever we need them. It's life. So all of these stories are really expressly for the purpose of taking away, bringing down, dismantling, shattering. But in the process of doing so, when we take a word like mystic, or mother, or teacher, or master, we recognize that the way we've worked over the years is to take that word and live up in one way or another to what we think they should be. What a mother is, what a scientist is, what a seeker is, what a spiritual being is. And that's not what they are, as we've discovered it. Not when we experience them within ourselves. So the stories are for the purpose of removing the conditioning of our mind relative to whatever it is, so that what it is can arise from within us. A story was told on Tuesday that helps us to do this. It's a story of a very, very rich Jewish merchant. And he was traveling with a load of goods that he had bought for trading, and he was traveling through a mountain pass. And as he was traveling through the pass, he met a group of rabbis, rabbinical scholars they were, who were on their way to the cave in which the great soul, who had spent 13 years living there to escape from the Romans, had compiled the Torah, the great Jewish book. So these rabbinical scholars invited the merchant to join them in their pilgrimage to the cave. And when they got there and they entered the cave and they all sat down, their custom was that they would take the Torah and they would pass it from one to the other and each read a passage from it. Now, the Torah was passed around and each of the rabbis read a passage from this great book and were edified by it, of course. But then, when it was handed to the Jewish merchant and he looked at the book, it was in Aramaic. He didn't know one word of Aramaic, so he could not read a passage. Now, after the gathering was over, all of the rabbis went out to sleep for the night, but the Jewish merchant remained behind in a state of abject sorrow. He couldn't read a word, much less understand this great book. So he cried. He really cried with all his being. he sobbed himself to a state of exhaustion until he lay down to sleep. And in his sleep, he had a dream. He dreamt that an old man came to him and gave him comfort and solace, and then kissed him on the lips. He woke up, and there was the Torah that had been there, remaining in the cave. And he picked it up and opened it up, and he could understand every letter, every word. And not only could he understand every letter and every word, but he knew the deepest meaning. He had an understanding of what all of those words meant. Now the rabbis came back into the cave again, and they all sat around, but they wanted to discuss a certain passage of the Torah that had a very abstruse meaning. But the merchant was able to explain the deepest meaning of this oblique passage to all of these rabbis. And they asked, what happened? Yesterday you couldn't even read a word of what the book has said. So he told them about his dream. And of course they all had an opinion about what it is that had transpired for him. Grace had come down, the writer of the Torah had visited him, etc., etc. Everyone had their opinion about what it was that occurred. But the fact remained, he could read, he understood. After that, of course, many people came to him to seek advice and enlightenment. And you know, every time he opened that book, this Torah, he not only could read the words, but he could understand their deepest meaning. And he became a great, great master. Even the rabbis coming to him for his wisdom. When we look at the word mystic, or any other word for that matter, and we look with our mind at what the meaning might be, what we've gleaned from our experiences and our education about what a teacher is, or seeker, spiritual being. What in this story could be the act of being kissed on the lips by the old man, whoever he was? Symbolically, what is it for us that kisses us on the lips, and so knowing emerges, understanding is there? What's the deep meaning of this story for you? What's your experience? What made you drop being a victim, a seeker, and all of those other things, to become, to understand, to know? It's happened to you. All of us. There's not one of us who have not had this experience.
It's maybe the point when it's realized that it's beyond reach for the mind.
Right.
Which is a great sorrow.
Yes, a great sorrow. We've all had this experience. What is this? Kiss on the lips, so to speak, that comes after our great suffering, our great weeping, our great sobbing. What is that point, Bonnie, when we can say, oh, give up, just do, and it's there.
Yeah, surrender to whatever comes, and knowing that it's right.
Is it an active surrender for us? Or is it a point of despair where our weeping, our sorrow, is so great that, as it was in the story, symbolically, he fell asleep with exhaustion? What does this signify for us? What's our experience of it? To be brought to that greatest point of despair.
That we have no choice.
That we have no choice. So it's really not a surrender. That we have no choice anymore. We have nowhere to go.
Falling asleep maybe is a symbol of no control anymore.
No control anymore. Not holding on anymore to
Acceptance.
acceptance. Yes. And after that something happens, like the sleep. And then it happens. The kiss, so to speak. And yet we can't wait for it, can we? We can't have any expectation of it. It can only come after that absolute point where we fall asleep, so to speak. We give up from exhaustion.
We stop fighting.
We stop fighting. We stop fighting. And then it happens. So just to sum it up, what would you express as being your understanding of this story?
I find it hard to put words to it, but I know the feeling. It's almost like a door opens and there's a connection with
Yes.
something else that
Yes.
I wasn't aware of before.
Wasn't aware of before. That's it.
Yeah, it's like unlocking another door in your head.
Yes. Yes.
It's there all the time. Just,
Yes.
I don't know, just busy or whatever to see it.
Yeah.
When you give up and
So we can look at this word mystic. It seems so elevated. Mystic, a mystic. Oh, a mystic. It's like a saint or a divine. You think, oh, no. But no. It did.
Yeah, I find it's when, like as you say, when the mind becomes like exhausted, you know,
Yes.
and it is that actual physical feeling of, not trying to do it, not, you know, that has to be done, like I have to do it now. It's actually quite a like relaxing feeling when, because I'm just thinking of one of the experiences that I had, just to let it go, and as soon as I had let it go, the answer was like that there. It was so like that that it shocked me. Yeah, and I was like, oh, God, I've done it again. And then I kept writing, because I was writing something.
But something has to be said. And that something is that to live in that state where always the kiss on the lips is there and the knowing is there, is to live in that state of desperation every moment. That's what it means by being awake. What does it mean when it says the Buddha who was awake? It means that we live at that state of absolute intensity that we are brought to, just like the merchant was brought to, when through sheer exhaustion he fell asleep. To live at that point at every moment, it's not hard, and yet it requires every ounce, every atom of energy that we have to live like this. But its reward is always, always to have understanding and knowing of whatever it is that is there, presented to us at every moment. Can you live at that point of desperation?
Most of the time it doesn't ask for permission.
Absolutely, spot on. It's not a choice, is it? It's not a choice for us. That's it.